Thanks so much, Gary, for that clarification there. Thing number three. We're now moving to thing number four. We're talking about advanced micro devices, ticker AMD. They also, Gary, provided some weak guidance. Is this bad news for AI or is it just difficulty taking on Nvidia? Gary, thing number four. Tell us more about it. AMD's earnings.
I think it's a bit of a mix, Rob. And AMD is a great example of the question you just asked. They reported revenue of 6.8 billion. They beat analyst estimates. They had a terrific quarter, but they provided lower than expected guidance and the stock went down. So this is a great example of what we're talking about. AMD is a really interesting situation. They have taken a lot of share from Intel in the server market. They've also been taking share from Intel in the PC market. And a big part of that reason is the AMD chips are particularly good for gaming. They're generally better than Intel chips. And yes, there are certain Intel chips who are bad, but if you take AMD's top of the line and they've got these X3D chips that are really good for gaming. And so they've become more popular. Also, we've talked on this show a lot. Intel is having some reliability issues, and so they've been grabbing share there. Where AMD is falling short is they've come out with new graphics chips and new GPUs, and they're trying to position it as a key competitor to Nvidia's Blackwell chip. And they're not making such great headway there. You could argue, wait a minute, maybe this isn't great for AI. But when we look at the Magnificent Seven earnings, and so go back to thing number three, what we're seeing is one of the reasons why a lot of the Magnificent Seven has guidance that's not so great is because they're spending a fortune on AI related chips. And so I think most of what's happening here is AMD is doing really well on the CPU side. But it's just really hard to go up against Nvidia in the GPU market. And so the place where AMD is really, they're doing well is on the GPUs being used for gaming. Now, that's not a small market, but it's not the huge AI market. And, the people who are paying 10, 20, $30,000 per chip for AI purposes, they're locking themselves into NVIDIA's architecture and their infrastructure. And that's just the way that's going. The other thing that's happened with AMD is they've been capacity constrained a little bit. And it's worth pointing out, Intel has been criticized a lot for producing their own chips, having their own foundry plants, and generally having some reliability problems. And the truth is, they don't manufacture as well or as small as Taiwan Semiconductor does. In the case of AMD, they've outsourced that and they go to TSM for this stuff. So, they have a better foundry working for them, but they can end up supply constrained because they don't have as much control. So there's really a lot going on with AMD. And that's sort of there's a lot of, good and bad in that report. And that's why, again, you saw them beat, but give disappointing guidance.
Gary, you covered most of it there in terms of takeaways. If someone was looking at AMD as a potential investment, I mean, what would be your guidance or what are some things that they might be looking at outside of what you just mentioned, just in terms of your take on the stock?
I haven't really looked at the stock um as an investment. It's not a company that I've ever owned before. You know, I think there are some issues that are really difficult. They had, like I said, they've been taking share from Intel in the server market, but Intel isn't, they're a tough competitor. More importantly, on the GPU side, they're going up against Nvidia. So, AMD is kind of in the number two spot in a bunch of places. That's generally not where you want to be. That said, they do make really good product. And somebody I know who builds his own computers, he just put an AMD processor in his computer and an AMD graphics card. It's not bad to be making, really good gaming machines. And they are getting a price premium for it. So there's no way I'm going to tell you it's a bad company, but I haven't really looked at the valuation or what the future looks like for these guys.